resolutions is going to be to perfect our sound.
Perfect our sound.
Yeah, just getting the voices right. I'm a big fan of many another podcast, and I just love when it's good sound. No fault if there's a caller in or whatever, but it's comforting for me to hear, like when I listen in my headphones and hear like the good quality sound.
There's so many factors to it.
We're building the airplane as we go.
Okay, but there's so many factors to that is like life itself, is the fact of the things that are in your control, which may be what? Microphone, tone, volume, that
Enunciation.
Well, I mean, now you're getting into things like that. You're talking about sound, and then you're talking about being a linguist or who your person is, a verbalist. Okay. Then there are things that may not be in your control. Example to follow this one. What you say about sound and the effect that it has on you, as you just gave the example. You listen to podcasts, you like when the sound is good.
Yep.
There's levels that are measurable, but then there are things that are also subjective. Okay, to the example that I'm about to give. A couple of weeks ago, was listening to a show, not a podcast, but a similar deal. There's sound, there's music, there's something that is soothing to me. I'm not thinking about, wow, this is good sound. A movie, a show is on Netflix. Movie, dramatic, whatever, that I'm starting to fall asleep, and I don't want to miss the story of this show. So I go, I'm going to flip over to just what is on TV. A football game was on TV. Right. As I'm dozing off, I'm very, very comfortable, hence why I want to stop it, because I don't want to miss this. But I'm so comfortable that I don't even want to leave my sofa.
Yeah, I understand that.
That feeling. I flip it off. Just, okay, stop this to whatever's on TV. I'm going to feel the same way, right? I'm just dozing off. What is on TV is what Monday night or Thursday night, whatever, football game, professional football game.
And you stay awake.
Chris Collinsworth.
Oh.
It's his voice. Look at him over there. It's all. I can feel like levels of cortisol going up in me. And I'm like, holy shit. This guy is snapping me out of my slumber feeling that I'm having.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing. I say this all the time. The better the movie, the faster I fall asleep.
Yeah.
Especially in the theater. I mean, and even if I haven't even seen the movie, if I'm like excited and like, I feel so happy and so comfortable, I get my big thing of popcorn, I might fall asleep in the trailers at the beginning.
Yes.
Because I'm relaxed and feel good.
There you have it.
So, you know what? We're going to forgive all of our listeners out there if they happen to fall asleep. Hey, I'll take that as well, maybe not a sign of pride, of badge of courage, but
Okay, let me call
I've told Chucky that before, that I'll listen to his podcast and I'll fall asleep to it because he's got a great voice, I
got to jump in every now and then. When the call is word, wake up, people. We're talking about there's drop the check. Hey, guys.
Well,
fuck, they're going to switch the channel.
If people complain about falling asleep, we'll have him as a guest.
Yeah. Hey, look at what he's doing. I don't know what that guy's doing over there. I'll tell you what he's doing. He's keeping me awake.
I like Chris Collinsworth.
I like him too. Just he's not good to sleep to.
Okay, fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough.
I had one of those ones that you have like, they have those guys that read to you.
Yeah.
I forget who the actor is. It was on Game of Thrones, who has like this amazing voice that he's talking like this just to read to you, and I'm like,
is it a fall asleep podcast thing?
Yeah, it's one of those ones. I realize read to me. I'm gonna start beating off. You're talking about it. I'll fall asleep. Yeah, I'll fall asleep. Give me 3.5 minutes. I'm gonna fall asleep and finish this off.
Well, speaking of presentation or whatever, Christmas time. See, here it goes. Usually happens at Thanksgiving, like after harvest, and I finally get a break.
Hmm.
Sometimes I get a cold. I
Oh
I
yeah.
I don't. I mean, like I never got COVID. I
Yeah.
was not sick. This is the first time I've been sick in about 4 years. But when it finally the heat of the moment is over and harvest is over and Thanksgiving is over, a lot of times I'll get sick. And sure enough, right here as Christmas rolls around, both Winton and I have a little bit of a cough, and
Oh,
so I apologize ahead of time for the sound of my voice as we're talking about voices. And then additionally, if you're watching this, well, Mike, you probably can't see it now, but up here on my eyebrow,
hmm.
we were shooting the other day at the range, and sure enough, I did the stupidest thing that I got the scope too close to my eye, fired off my rifle, and pow, it just cut my forehead open.
That guy.
Yep.
Well, I mean, scars of the
It,
sport.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of a little like tough man thing.
Yeah, that's right. Some people have tennis elbows. Some people have a big gash on their forehead from shooting their rifle. Right.
Incorrectly.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of wine, since it is wine and is of the season, I will say that yesterday, because I did host Christmas at
Yep.
my house and her
Yep.
house,
Yep.
there was a sampling of Pearson Meyer wines. Yes, sir.
I hear that's a very good wine.
Ve- Not just very, a very, very good wine. In fact, I'll say this: wines,
Is that plural?
plural. Yeah, we got
Like it.
into a Chardonnay. We got into a Cabernet.
Nice.
And we even finished it off with a Marquette. Why? By the way,
Maquette.
see what
See,
I
it's
said?
it's
Remember when you said enunciation?
yeah,
There you
yeah.
go. There you go. People are switching off right now. Fuck
It's
it.
the most
Chris Collins, like, hey, you looking for anyone?
yeah, Marquette. It's the most mispronounced thing. I would say that people say Marquette
Yeah,
more than they say Maquette. So
Marquette.
Maquette, which is, for people listening out there, the Pearson Meyer Maquette Red Blend is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, and Merlot. It's a
Okay.
beautiful, what we call a classic Bordeaux blend. Those are varietals from the Bordeaux region of France. Okay,
Yeah.
so I have this blend I put together, and the short story is I'm putting this together, and my business partner and founder, co-founder with me at Pearson Meyer Wines, Alan Pearson. I'm like, hey man, you got to come over here and taste this wine I put together. And he's like, that's brilliant. What is it? I was like, well, if I was doing a right bank Bordeaux blend, right
Mm-hmm.
bank in Bordeaux, right side of the river, it has predominantly, or at least a significant planting of Merlot there. So it's more of a Merlot-driven wine as opposed to Cabernet Sauvignon. So it's
Yes.
my right bank, stab at what I would do if I was doing a right bank blend. And he's like, oh, cool, it's your Maquette. And I was like, I guess I have no idea what Maquette means.
Okay, let's dig into that.
So Alan is a sculptor by education, trade, passion, etc. He does amazing work, and when he's building a large sculpture,
Mm-hmm.
quite large pieces, he of course will build a smaller model of that sculpture to kind of get his dimensions, everything intact as he's developing his larger sculpture. The model is called a maquette.
I
And so
gotcha.
this was my model of a right bank Bordeaux blend.
That is so fascinating, interesting, and look, was just educated right now because, as far as I know, I will once again state my place here as the guy that doesn't know.
Yeah.
Right? Had I seen Cabernet Sauvignon before? Yes, I had.
Yes.
Chardonnay, of course.
Yes.
Seen them. Maquette, which I was calling Marquette, maybe not, but could that be something that maybe I had not seen across all the, am I saying varietals,
Yeah.
varieties?
Well, see, that's another thing. Like
Okay.
I kind of came up saying varietal, and
Mm-hmm.
it's used very, very commonly by professionals. I think it is more correct to say variety. This is a debate that people have, and I think grammatically, linguistically, even biologically, I think it's better to say variety.
Mm-hmm.
But you will hear me say varietal often.
And why is that? Is that because the
Just no,
terminology it
just
just gets
terminology,
it?
nomenclature. You know,
Yes,
it's just one of those things.
right. Very, very interesting. So back to this, the maquette.
Yes.
This is particular to the Pearson Meyer label.
Yes, that's right. I mean, the word, like, it's much more used in the artistic community,
Mm-hmm.
but I have come to find out that in French winemaking,
Yep.
oftentimes they will say, so another thing that we'll say is we'll take barrel samples. We'll take samples out of the barrel so that we can taste them, analyze them, etc., and we'll work on blending together. And we will sit at the bench or at the
Mm-hmm.
tabletop, and we will put together little blends, and we
Yes.
call those bench trials because we're
Okay.
sitting at the bench, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that term sometimes is used in France or French-speaking people as their maquette. It's not their bench blend. It's not their bench trial. It's their maquette, their model, their sample for this, bigger blend that they'll do later. So the word is used in winemaking. It's not ultra common, but
Mm-hmm.
it is used. And then, uh, you know, I'll have people in our industry. I'll get an invoice from like one of my distributors, and it'll say Marquette. People
Uh,
list it on a wine list as
right.
Marquette. So it's not like it's common knowledge.
Yeah.
No one else in at least that I know of calls their Bordeaux blend a Maquette. That's
Right.
what we call that is a proprietary name, a fanciful name. That's
Mm.
just something that I call it.
You know
It's
what?
like it's like Snoop Dogg's Red. It's just
Snoop. Oh my
Have you
God!
seen
I mean,
that? Have you seen that out there?
no. What is
Snoop,
Snoop?
Snoop's
He
got his
has.
whole line of wines.
So is that a blend? I mean,
Well, I don't even know what
what
he
could
has out
that
there.
be blended with? It could be blended with
All
a
kinds
whole
of
lot
things.
of weed and
No,
I
I
don't
think
know
he just has
crayons.
straight up. I think he has Syrah and different blend. I don't know what. I haven't had it, to be honest. Nothing against Snoop. I just haven't had it.
Okay, back to that. What you said, and what I'm going to relate this to could be anything across food. When one starts combining this and this to say, "Hey, man, that works,"
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
With wines, when you have a blend
yeah.
and the bell goes off and you go, "Hey, that's okay." The blend being like the colors of primary colors to making secondary colors to all the colors, across the
Sure,
spectrum of colors.
sure.
That almost that locks up my brain and again makes me feel somewhat inebriated to think about how much testing one can do. So back to let's stick with this one thing, the
Yeah,
maquette.
yeah.
When you're sitting there and you have say the
Three,
three
three,
is
three.
what? Say
Cab
name the three.
Franc,
Yep.
Cab Franc,
Okay.
Cab Sauv,
Mm-hmm.
and Merlot.
Those three. Okay. There's three of these. Let's say I don't know how you have them on the table.
Yep.
They're already bottled or they're sitting there in some container. The three of them.
Well, they're existing in a barrel, and
Okay.
we'll pull a sample from that barrel and
Mm-hmm.
temporarily put it into a glass bottle. And I
Okay.
have all those glass bottles standing in front of me.
Mm-hmm. So what ends up being first of all the decision between those three? That's the first question, and on you're going to follow that up with ratios.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, one, the idea of blending these varieties, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
has gone on for centuries or whatever. It's like the heritage of those three varietals, like I said, to come from Bordeaux, France, and in Bordeaux, they've been blending these varietals together for a long period of time,
Okay.
as opposed to say blending in Chardonnay to it.
Okay.
That it doesn't work. I know that. I mean, I could do it right now for taste and taste it for you. I could give you a bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon and a bottle of Chardonnay. You might love both of them. You put them together, you wouldn't like that blend. I mean, maybe you would. Most people would not. But
Mm-hmm.
that's just not a really successful blend. So some of the ideas of doing this type of blending have gone on, centuries before me. But I go, okay, I have three different wines that I've produced here. And I'll taste the Cabernet and go, okay, well, that has, maybe not enough structure to it. I want a little bit more structure on the palate. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know for a fact that my Cabernet Franc has a little bit more structure.
I got
So
you.
pour a little bit of Cabernet Franc into my Cabernet Sauvignon. Go, oh, now that's got like a nice body to it, wonderful finish, great framework.
Yeah.
It really smells beautiful, but it's really dark fruit. We're talking blackberry and blueberry, and that's wonderful. But I'd like something a little bit more lively and more red fruit and something fresh, and maybe even a little bit more acidity to it. Guess
Yeah.
what? Merlot has all those attributes. So now I'm going to take a little bit of Merlot and pour it
Yeah.
in there. And I'll go, yeah, okay, that's better. That's better. Give me some more. I could use some more of all of those things. Let me put a little bit more Merlot in there. And so I'll add in, and we are measuring these things out. It's not just like salt and pepper. We're measuring these things out and going, okay, I'm going to go 38% Cabernet Sauvignon, 42% Cabernet Franc, 15% Merlot. I don't know what those numbers are. I'm just making it up. But then I'll try that out. And then I'll go, it's to this, it's to that, it's to X, Y, and Z. And I'll back it up and finally come to a conclusion. And like that Maquette that you had was about 40% Cabernet Sauvignon, and I'm saying about 40% Cabernet Franc, and about 20% Merlot. And I've come up with that combination, years ago. And I know the vineyard well. I know what those varieties are going to produce in that vineyard. So every year it's going to be somewhat similar to that. But, the percentages will change. And I really don't care what the percentages are. There's no formula to it.
Yeah.
It's just taste and smell and perception of the wine. So if it required one vintage, the Cab was like this or the Merlot was like that, no problem. I'll adjust the ratio to make it the best wine possible. And that's the advantage of having a blended wine, is because you're mitigating the weaknesses of any given variety. And especially from vintage to vintage to vintage, you kind of get a more consistent product because you're mitigating all the weak factors that any varietal might have had in a given vintage. Whereas if you just have one Cabernet Sauvignon 100% from one vineyard, you're susceptible to that vintage more so. It is what it is.
Yes. And your Maquette. Your recipe, your Maquette. Don't say Marquette.
Don't say Marquette. Yeah, I mean, I've got thick skin, but that's a school.
Yeah, that's not what it is. It's not what it is.
It's not
Marquette. It's not. It's a Maquette, and it's delicious. Hey, friends. Thanks for listening to this Small Bites episode of Drop the Check. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to hear more like this, please let us know by following us on Drop the Check at your podcast streaming services and Drop the Check on social media. We'd love to hear from you too, so please reach out if you have any questions or comments or ideas about future Small Bites episodes. Maybe something you want to know about wine or winemaking, or how we can make this podcast sound better, or anything. Just drop us a line, please. As always, Drop the Check is brought to you by Pearson Meyer Wines. Pearson Meyer, a very, very good wine. I hope everyone has a great and safe holiday. We have some really great guests coming up in the new year, so please keep listening. For Drop the Check and Robbie Meyer, I'm Mike Anderson. See you next time.